All right. Hola Madridistas. Welcome to the preview for match day 3 in the UEFA Champions League as we play host to Dortmund at home. It's going to be a cracker, with Dortmund looking to exact some revenge for the final last year. To break this down and a lot more, I'm joined today by Ben, big time Dortmund fan. He's going to introduce himself a bit later on, and of course, Farouk, the fan favorite for this channel. But before we kick things off, a quick word from our sponsor, Manscaped, the OGs in the male grooming space. So if you're in the market for some sweet grooming products to get your look to the next level, head on over to manscaped.com and use code LBR20 for 20% off and free shipping. So yeah, Ben, kick things off. Talk to us about how you became a Dortmund fan and what your general work around the club in recent years.
Yeah, hi Farouk. Hi Jacob. Nice to see you again. Thanks a lot for having me back on. And obviously, it's a huge game, Real Madrid in the Champions League. The new group phase, or rather, it's interesting format that UEFA have come up with, basically to change things around. And we're 2 games into it, obviously. It's been going pretty well so far for Dortmund. Obviously, we played against Brugge and won away 3-0, which has very much contradicted our away form this season in the league. And then we smashed Celtic on a quite an embarrassing level, 7-1. In Europe, at least once more like last season, things are looking fantastic for the Schwarz-Gelb aus Dortmund. And myself, well, as you know, I'm the founder of the Borussia Dortmund fan club in London, in England, the first BVB fan club here in England in 2013. And I'm a Bundesliga writer and PhD researcher on German football. And I love it. Basically, I host the Dortmund Fan Club podcast. How did I come to do it? Well, my stepfather was from Dortmund, Erhard, and I just started going as a kid. So we just went to the Yellow Wall, to the Signal Iduna Park, or what we call Westfalenstadion, which is the traditional name for the ground. And yeah, I guess I've notched up about maybe 500 games so far. So yeah, I love it. And yeah, that's it. That's all you need to know.
Can you actually, maybe if any Dortmund fans are listening in, do you want to tell them where you can find your work, your writing, and maybe even the podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So I write for 442, BBC, Gulf News, Dubai, and also World Soccer Talk in the States, and World Football Index here in the UK, and also regional newspapers. And our podcast, basically just look on Spotify for Borussia Dortmund Fan Club London podcast, and you'll find lots of interviews there with former players of BVB, some former coaches as well, from Emre Can to Bert van Marwijk and many more in between. So yeah, some 70, 80 episodes so far. So yeah, enjoy. If you want to know more about BVB, join us. And yeah, that's really all I can say to you right now.
Brilliant. Yeah, we're gonna make sure you have we attach all of the links down in the description so you can find Ben easily. But yeah, Ben, like the last time that we met, you were kind of optimistic about the preview, heading into the Champions League final. Did the game go as you expected? What were your thoughts about the final?
Oh boy, going right back to the final. Well, the final in Wembley Stadium, I wondered actually where the Real Madrid fans were, because the whole city seemed to be full of Borussia Dortmund fans. And we actually had a big screening in the Hyde Park this year at Hyde Park Corner, which was totally unexpected. And I think there was 100,000 or so Dortmund fans there. So that was totally spectacular, and well done to BVB for organizing something like that. To be fair, we, the London Fan Club, always organize something when there's a BVB game, and we were inundated, totally inundated in the 2 weeks before, with requests for events and so on. And we ended up hosting about 1,000 fans at a nightclub the night before, and then about more than 1,000 on the day of the game itself. And 2 TV crews came down and filmed with us, including Sky Television Germany and also Eurosport as well. And One Football came down as well and did something. So yeah, you may know we also did a massive mural of Marco Reus and Jadon Sancho at Jadon Sancho's former school. We did a big mural there, 4 by 4 meters, and so yeah, we just wanted to say goodbye to Marco and Jadon, and that's exactly how things have turned out. So yeah, there was a hell of a lot going on, and yeah, I think we did our thing in respect of the game itself. I think Borussia Dortmund held their own really well. I think it was a really impressive performance by BVB, but ultimately Dortmund has a squad with a squad value about half of Real Madrid, and I think that you know, in spite of the very brave and committed performance, once more after 2013, we just simply didn't have the armaments to be able to really turn the game to our favor. So, yeah, I've heard a lot of neutrals said that Dortmund played extremely well on the night, and I feel the same, to be honest.
Yeah, I was. I'll be honest. I was shitting my pants in the first half at least. How was it for you, Farooq?
Yeah, definitely. Just to, I will just borrow the last words, that Ben used. Like Dortmund played really, really well, much more than I expected. And like Real Madrid were, quite, yeah, as you said, on the ropes for the first half as well, so it was quite interesting. But then, yeah, like once we got the goal from Carval through the header in the second half, the game literally opened up a bit. And yeah, we were able to, handle the game, see out the game. But of course, yeah, it was, I would, say definitely like Borussia Dortmund were the better team of the night overall. But yeah, Real Madrid did do that. And this is what Real Madrid does, right? Like we just go, we win games, and we don't necessarily have to be the best team. We are just the winners. Basically, that's the thing, and that's been the thing throughout the season as well. We play a lot of games, and you just wonder like, how did you win those games?
Absolutely, man. It all came down to individual brilliance, in the final. But yeah, enough about last season. This is a new season. It's a new look for this Dortmund team. A lot of changes. Talk to us. Maybe we can get started with the coach, Nuri Sahin. How do you think he's doing? What are your expectations for him?
Yeah, it's awesome, really, isn't it? I mean, Nuri Sahin is really well known to the Dortmund faithful. I mean, I remember him back in the day, some 20 years ago when he started as a ball boy. The photos emerged many years later, but I guess what everybody knows about him is that he's a local boy born less than 35 kilometers in Lüdenscheid, near to Dortmund, and he played at local teams, and then he came to the Dortmund youth setup and basically showed a heck of a lot of promise. As far as I know, he's the youngest player to debut for the Dortmund first team. It's either him or Youssoufa Moukoko. He was, and Sebastian Tirala as well. I think they were all 16 years old when they first played in the first team of BVB. So essentially, people remember him, and then he went off to Real Madrid and Liverpool and so on, and was bought back. He was one of those players that Dortmund bought back. Others are Mario Götze, Mats Hummels, and Shinji Kagawa, and so on. Dortmund has a good history of selling players for big money and basically bringing them back again for much less. So, although I don't think Jude Bellingham's going to be one of those players, to be honest, I think we've kind of lost that one.
Yeah.
But weirdly, talking about bringing Ousmane Dembele back, but to be fair, the way he left the club in such a bad way, I really can't see that happen. Anyway, Nuri has an even bigger affinity with the Dortmund faithful, in that we've known him from his youth onwards, and he was a good performer with Dortmund. He was quite unlucky in some ways in his career. I think perhaps he didn't quite make the breakthrough that everybody expected, but he showed moments of brilliance. Perhaps he wasn't the fastest player, and that might have been one of his issues. But I think that yeah, he's trusted, he's liked, and he's come in and he's taken over the position of Edin Terzic, who just simply wasn't really a winner. I think Terzic won the DFB Pokal in 2021, but apart from that, I think that essentially, you see, the thing is, what Dortmund are always looking for is kind of a link-up man between the yellow wall, the fans, and the team. And it's that when you find that, like Jurgen Klopp, that ability to kind of tie together the fans and the team, then you have an incredibly powerful link up, basically, because it's a monstrously big stadium, 80,000, and really, really anybody who's been to Dortmund, I don't know if either of you have been to Dortmund, but it's a monstrously powerful atmosphere in the stadium. And I think that to some degree, perhaps being driven by that, I was interviewing a guy called Raphael Honigstein, who is the Bundesliga presenter in England, and he was saying that because of the financial situation that Dortmund is in, which is they are vastly less financially well off than Bayern München, because it's a much less economically advanced region. Dortmund is an area previously of coal mining and steel, and as we know, those are industries which have gone into decline a lot in the last few decades, as opposed to Munich, which is more high tech and banking and similar. So essentially, the economic imbalance between the two means that Dortmund has to have a very, very, very special coach who really brings everything together in order for Dortmund to be ahead of Bayern München, basically. And again, Bayern München's squad is worth almost twice what Dortmund's worth. So at the end of the day, it's a very unbalanced situation in Germany, and that's why Bayern have won the last 11 titles, apart from Bayer Leverkusen last season, which was a very refreshing thing. So in summary, that gives you an idea of the situation, that gives you an idea that the situation that Dortmund is in, and also why they tend to appoint these guys who have a deep enmeshment within the club, as opposed to, let's say, bringing in somebody like Jose Mourinho or Pochettino or somebody like that who perhaps has a stronger pedigree as a coach, basically. And then there's one last thing, which is that coach Dortmund have to be German-speaking coaches, basically. And that's why I think Dortmund basically is hobbled to some degree as to who wants to take on this job and what they're able to provide. So Nuri is another big compromise by the club. He has very limited experience. He's come in from Antalyaspor in Turkey. He took them up from 13th up to 7th in the league. And he did well, you could say. But nothing exceptional, I would say. And that more or less summarizes the situation this season. So he's doing good, but he's not doing amazing.
Right. And what do you think about his character? Like, I remember his time at Real Madrid. He was super young. He was inexperienced, but he always seemed like a quiet guy. Do you think he's up for it in terms of a leadership position?
Similarly to Edin Terzic, he's a young, inspiring guy who has ideas, and it's either going to work or it's going to fail. And that's exactly, I think, what a lot of Dortmund fans feel, basically. There's a lot of instability at the moment. One day we're amazing, like against Celtic, although they didn't put up much opposition. And then another day, when we got hammered by Stuttgart 5-1, or we lost against Union Berlin last weekend. The weekend before, there was an international break in between. The team put in a poor performance, and there's just an instability in the side. So you basically don't really know which team is going to come out. Essentially, BVB has a very strong lineup, but it's really hard to predict which team is going to be, which performance you're going to see on the night, basically. That's my point of view. So I think Nuri Sahin comes across as perhaps he's just trying to give an impression of being more advanced as a coach as he probably is. I think he is an inexperienced coach with a limited background, and at the end of the day, I think that shows. And as I said, it's either going to work or it's not going to work, and it really is as simple as that. Remember that since Jurgen Klopp left us in 2016, we've had, I think, 8 different coaches. So, Dortmund has not exactly been stable in the last since then, whatever that is, 8 years. Yeah.
And that's not all of the changes. This is almost a new look for Dortmund in terms of at least the attackers. Farouk, Fulkrug, he was absolutely a nightmare when he faced off against us. He had a brilliant season last season. Have you actually caught him at West Ham? Any bits of him? What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, also he hasn't played too much for West Ham as well. He's been in and out of the team. But yeah, I haven't seen. I think the West Ham game I saw actually Antonio played and Antonio scored in the game as well. So like Fulkrug hasn't actually hit the ground running yet in England. But I do think as you mentioned, last year in the Champions League, especially he was like lighting up for Borussia, especially in the knockout rounds. But I think he's a big miss right now. But then the thing is, it's not just about a departure or lack thereof. It's also about who's replacing him. You have, I think he was the second highest goal scorer in the league, just behind Harry Kane last year. Sergio Guirassy. So it's not like you're replacing him with a nobody as well. So I think even some Dortmund fans might even say that that's an upgrade over Niklas Füllkrug. So it's just it's just a matter of also as Ben was highlighting. It's about the fact that you have a lot of new components in this team and there's a lot of inexperience that goes around it. So let's not forget the talisman of the team, the spiritual leader of the team was Marco Reus as well. So the departure of Marco Reus has to be taken into account. And Ben is highlighting you have 8 coaches in 8 years. Coaches of different kind of backgrounds, and one thing we know, the last 2 coaches basically are coaches that you wouldn't consider as elite coaches. So it's a bit of mixture of everything. So it's not just about Fulkrug leaving or Guirassy replacing him. It's it's just a larger lens that you have to look at the whole thing from actually.
Yeah, do you agree with that, Ben? Do you think it's Guirassy is actually an upgrade because he's not really a like-to-like replacement for Fulkrug? Do you feel like you have to play a different system to accommodate him?
Yeah, I actually was at Niklas Fulkrug's debut against Celta Vigo friendly, pre-season friendly. I was pitch side doing reporting, and I was able to get within a couple of feet from him. And he looked like he was really happy to be over here. And the stories that have come up so far is that he's very, very pleased. I mean, we got 12 goals out of him. However, I think 5 or 6 of those were penalties last season. So I think people just felt that ultimately to buy him for 15 and sell him for 25 after one season was a really good deal for Dortmund for a guy who was, I think he's 31, if I'm not mistaken. So as Farouk pointed out very well, the Guinean French player Serhou Guirassy, 28 goals in 28 matches for VfB Stuttgart. He isn't the only player we bought from Stuttgart. We also bought Waldemar Anton, the defender as well, who's not working out quite so well, surprisingly. Big expectations from both of them, both being internationals. But I mean, I think that Guirassy so far has settled in well at Dortmund. He's scoring goals regularly. And yeah, a great addition, as Farouk said. So we're very lucky to have Guirassy. And again, I think Dortmund did some fantastic business with him, bringing him in. I forget the exact transfer fee. I think it was about 20. Really good business that they've done there, basically, again. So yeah, I take my hat off to Sebastian Kehl last weekend for the dealings that they've been doing this summer. And yeah, to be fair, I think Pascal Gross from Brighton Hove and Albion, even at 33 for just under 9 million, was an absolutely outstanding guy who basically reinforces us in the defensive midfield where Emre Can has shown a lot of weaknesses. Emre Can, of course, is well known from his time at Liverpool and Bayern München as well.
Yep, absolutely. Maybe you can talk us through some of the other signings. I'm really excited to hear about Jan Koto. I know you guys haven't signed him permanently yet, but he was a joy to watch in La Liga last season. Has he hit the ground running for you guys?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, we had an absolutely sensational player in Ian Matson, which you may know, who basically moved back to the Premier League. And he was offered for, I believe, 35 or 40 million, which you have to realize that Dortmund's limit is about 30 million. That's the maximum we've ever paid for a player, which would be Ousmane Dembele or Andre Schürrle in the past. And essentially, Dortmund is not a big signings club. We just bring in young talents like in the past, Erling Haaland or Jude Bellingham or Jadon Sancho, and develop them, Robert Lewandowski and so on. So it's just the way Dortmund does things. And I think that Jan Koto is another young talent. We hope that he's not going to be like Jesus. I forget that Jesus Reina, was it? The guy from Real Madrid, the past guy. Look, compared to Matson, anybody's going to look bad. And I think that personally, what I hear is that they want to sign Koto on a permanent, but I haven't seen that much from him so far. I think he was very good with Girona, and they put in a really shockingly good season, although they died off towards the end of the season. So, I mean, they had their reasons for bringing him in, but I think that personally, I'm a little surprised that Koto is going to be signed permanently, but that's just my opinion. I have to emphasize that. So it's just simply my opinion. And yeah, he's looking okay, but like every player, I think he also has a right to settle in, you know?
Yep, got it. And why this also kind of shocked me. Why wouldn't Dortmund really, invest time in developing Mukoko? I feel like you guys actually have it in the season. You play a lot of games. You can actually fit him into the squad, right? Like, why did he actually have to go out on loan?
Yeah. Well, Yusufa Moukoko, young Cameroonian guy raised in Hamburg, he was the sensation of our youth setup at BVB, scoring hundreds of goals in the under 15s, under 17s, under 19s. There was some controversy about his age. He certainly was physically extremely mature for his age. People thought that perhaps he might be a couple of years older technically. Sadly, there have been some evidence of players in Cameroon basically falsifying documentations in order to play at a younger, older players playing at younger levels, and a number of players have been disqualified by the Cameroonian FA under Samuel Eto'o, who of course has a fantastic pedigree from his time with Real Madrid and Real Mallorca as well as Barcelona. So what I can say about Yusufa Moukoko is that he was given more than a big chance with Borussia Dortmund's first team, and he never managed to stabilize himself. I don't remember quite how many games. He played at least 30 or 40 games in the first team, and he never really managed to prove himself consistently. So he's now moved to France. If I'm not mistaken, it's Nice that he's with. I'm pretty sure that's the case. And I hear that he's already scored 2 goals so far. And I'm really, really pleased to hear that. And I have met him, actually. I met him playing for Dortmund's under-23s against Kaiserslautern 2 seasons ago, although I didn't have the chance to interview him. And he seems like a popular guy, and I really hope that he's going to do well. But I think a loan was probably the absolute best that Dortmund could have done for him. In terms of other departures, Sebastian Aller has gone to Spain, as you probably know. I forget the name of the team. Perhaps you can remind me. It's escaped my mind right now. But again, I think Sebastian Haller, after his cancer scare, really needed a loan out to reignite his career. And as you mentioned before, Marco Reus, obviously, and Mats Hummels have both left. So 2 absolute legends of the club have left in the summer. Mats under something of a cloud after a bust-up with Edin Terzic, which we don't know to the degree which it was, but it could have been physical. It certainly was verbal. But he left pretty quickly. And Marco Reus obviously is now in Los Angeles Galaxy and doing very, very, very well over at Los Angeles Galaxy. They've won their divisional championship. And yeah, good to see even at 33 that he's reigniting his career over in the States at about the right level, I would say. So those are basically the replacements. There's only been a few other smaller transfers, Tom Rota to Holstein Kiel and so on. No, sorry, Tom Rota actually went to Union Berlin. I apologize. So you're pretty much up to speed there in terms of what changes there have been in the team. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't faced Leganes yet this season, so I haven't watched Haller play yet. But yeah, I look forward to actually facing off against him.
Yeah, it's exciting if Haller can reignite his career, and obviously we would love him to see him again in Dortmund. I'm still so inspired by his goal in the African Cup of Nations, one of my absolute favorite football tournaments, for the Ivory Coast against Nigeria last season. Yeah, so would love Haller to basically meet the expectations and also the price tag that we paid for him, which was very considerable money. But I have to say that, he didn't necessarily persuade fans at West Ham United or Ajax either. So we'll just have to see how things work out with Sebastian Haller.
Yes.
Yeah, Ben. Actually, I was in Nigeria when we actually played that final against the Ivory Coast. Like it was really shitty. Like of course, yeah, it was a good feel good story for Haller, but as or not, but I'm actually Nigerian, so like it's it's a very personal story for us, like with Haller scoring the winner like towards the end of the game, because also we were actually leading 1-0 in the game before they came back and eventually won the game. But yeah, it's definitely a great story for Sebastian Haller, but yeah, for us it's a heartbreaking one.
Yeah, it's a difficult time for Nigeria, for the Super Eagles. I've interviewed Sunday Olise, the former coach, who also played for us for Borussia Dortmund. And I always loved the Nigerian strip, the shirts, and I have a few of the Super Eagles shirts myself. So, yeah, I always want to see the Super Eagles back on top again. But yeah, African football is changing all the time, and to be fair, there's other big guns, and I'm really looking forward to the next AFCON. So it's one of my favorite tournaments. To be fair, you can't beat it.
Yeah, actually, that's it. As although it's not our subject of discourse, we're discussing with Jacob during the week as well. The whole thing with Libya and the Nigerian FA. Like, I don't know if you're aware of that, but like, there is the whole drama of like stranding the players in the airports. The Nigerian FA did that to Libyan players, and then now the Libyans are doing it to the Nigerians. It's really sad because like you look at these players, like it's like players like Victor Osimhen, players are worth hundreds of millions of euros. You look at Ademola Lookman, like players like that, like really high profile, high level players in Europe, and the CAF, the federation is just unable to to just get their shit together and like build something up on that. A very good tournament, I agree with you, like really really good tournament, but you just look at everything outside of what's happening on the pitch is just a shit show, unfortunately.
Absolutely, and it's going to be a great precursor. The next one is in Morocco, and it'll be just before in 2025, and it'll be just before the before the World Cup, and it'll be interesting to see how Morocco copes, because of course after USA, it's Morocco, Portugal, Spain is that World Cup. So it'll be interesting to see how well Morocco stages the African Cup of Nations.
Yeah, there's a lot of expectation on that because the Moroccan government actually has invested a lot in football in the past years, not just in male football, but also in women's football as well, which was evident in the last World Cup actually as well. We could see how good like the Moroccan team could also progress. So as you said, like, yeah, we're really looking forward to that. Let's see, if they can, do something really nice and, present a very good tournament like unlike the ones we've had before, hopefully.
Farouk, we'll have to do an AFCON show sometime.
Yeah, definitely, sure.
Nice. Actually, Farooq, like, let's slowly segue into the key matchups for this game. So you remember last year in the final, right? Adeyemi was absolutely a nightmare. Carvajal could contain him to a certain extent, but now we don't even have him. How do you think that matchup is gonna be like? Oh, this is for you, Farooq.
Okay. Well, yeah. Honestly, it's gonna be quite difficult because the thing is like with Lucas Vasquez, we know that he's a liability on defense. Like this is just it is like I mean he's a winger who's turned into a fullback. I think he's 33 years old or 34. So like expecting stuff from him is gonna be very difficult. So it's just gonna be about the fact that okay, how much can the center back, whoever plays as the right center back, that be? Because right now we're not sure how Carlo does it. Sometimes it's it's Militao, sometimes it's Rudiger. So like how you're able to how that center back also will fit in there, and also if what's it called, Fede Valverde also will have to drop in and plug that hole. But it's gonna be quite challenging to play against to play against him. So it's And also, I think Jan Koch also plays on that side as well, so, and he comes also with the knowledge of Real Madrid, if I'm not mistaken. I think Jan Koch also plays on that side. Yeah.
Yeah,
He
I
played.
would point
Yeah, go on, Ben.
Karim Adeyemi and Jan Koto are currently injured, so you may not see either of them basically, but it also gives opportunities for other left-sided players, including Jamie Gittens as well, who's the young England under-21, who's been playing excellently so far this season. There's been rumours of Liverpool being interested. Dortmund put a price tag of 40 million on him, which I think is extraordinary for a guy who's that young, 20 years old, and has very limited experience and so on. He came from Reading Academy, and I mean, at the end of the day, it'll be interesting to see what Jamie Gittens will develop into, basically. But Dortmund, they have such an incredible nose for players that you just you just can never fail to be amazed season after season the way they bring in these young kids and they turn out to be absolutely sensational. So I think Jamie Gittens could end up being a very interesting player. But as you said, Farouk, Karim Adeyemi is an outstandingly fast young guy. He's been scoring a lot of goals this season already. I mean, I say a lot. We're only at match day 7, but he scored some in pre-seasons as well. And he's a Germany international and so on, coming from RB Salzburg, again, a big talent factory. So, yeah, Karim Adeyemi is certainly a player to watch out for. And I suspect that you'll see Jamie Gittens on the left.
Yeah, that's... Yeah, go on, Jacob.
Is it actually going to be Maximilian Bayer on the right-hand side? How's he doing so far?
Maxi Bayer, sensational young striker. I think he's 21. He came from Hoffenheim, another buy that Dortmund did for about 20 million, which again is a very good piece of business. And he was very, very good at Hoffenheim. But he hasn't had much of an in at Dortmund so far. He's been sitting on the bench a lot. I'm not really sure to the degree which he's comfortable in that situation, but at the end of the day, when it comes to the strikers at the front, Dortmund has really a very a big strike force right now. So that basically explains why Niklas Füllkrug has been sold. Remember, we also have players like Daniel Malen and so on. So at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, I think Maxi Bayer would certainly relish the opportunity of playing against a team like Real Madrid, as would any of the BVB players. But I couldn't really say right now. Certainly, he's not in the lineup against San Pauli, and so we'll just have to see if he gets a chance against Real Madrid.
Sounds good. And I was thinking, like, this Real Madrid team is not the same mature team that you faced off last year, and it's a really different looking squad, almost with an imbalanced squad, a lot of people would say, with the departure of Cruz and coming off Mbappe. So do you think you stand a much better chance in this matchup compared to the last final?
I mean, I was speaking to Jesko von Eichmann, who's the key Sky Sports commentator who does Borussia Dortmund, and he was saying to me, to be fair, that the thing they're most excited about, the Sky team, is to go over and see the new stadium, the Santiago Bernabeu Mark 2.0. I don't know if you guys have actually seen it yet, but it really looks impressive. And I was there, as I said, back in 2017, or was it 2016? And I haven't been back to Santiago Bernabeu since. And I mean, it looks really exciting. In terms of BVB, well, I mean, we obviously are following the league, and especially Hansi Flick at your opponents, the red and blue guys from Eastern Spain, who I won't mention their names in order not to offend anybody. But basically, it's really hard to say. I mean, I think, as I said, it really depends on which BVB comes out on the night. But I mean, this young Dortmund side are certainly, very few of them have ever had the chance to play in a match this big, apart from the guys who played in the Champions League final. So yeah, it's a huge game. It's always Real Madrid. It's away. The tickets are sold out. About 3,000 BVB fans will be going over there. They will make themselves heard. And I suspect that Nuri will aim for a pretty defensive lineup, and it's very difficult to say how it's going to turn out on the night. But it could be pretty close, or it could be Real Madrid having the edge. I'm not really going to put my finger on it. I'm just going to say that it's really difficult to call this time, I think.
Right. You spoke about a defensive lineup. So what do you think the actual lineup is going to be like?
Well, Borussia Dortmund essentially probably are likely to play with Gregor Kobel in goal because basically he's been playing well, including for the Swiss national team. He's become recently the Swiss national team first keeper, which is a big deal for him. He's also a very safe pair of hands. Incidentally, also came from VfB Stuttgart. It seems like we buying all the players from Stuttgart, and yet they still managed to hammer us 5-1. So I don't know how they do it, to be honest. Julian Riersen, Norway international, and probably either Schlotterbeck or Süle. Personally, I'm a massive fan of both Riersen and Schlotterbeck. Particularly Nico Schlotterbeck, Germany international, young guy, came from Freiburg. Really, really good player, dynamic, but also very solid defender. And then Waldemar Anton, as I said, he, again, another Germany international. He hasn't had the best time settling into the side, but on a good day, he can be an extremely solid defender and certainly one to watch for the future. Probably Benzebaini, I would imagine, Rami Benzebaini. I'm not sure how aware you are of him from Borussia Mönchengladbach. He hasn't had the best of times, but he has potential. And in front of him, I would say you'd have Pascal Gross and Emre Can. Emre, since taking on the captaincy of the club, has looked much more self-confident, and that was needed. The advantage of him is that he can also help out. He's good at running back and helping out in the back in the defense, but he's going to be in the defensive midfield alongside Pascal Gross, who is a very strong player who, as I said, not only is good from free kicks, but also has sensational defensive qualities and offensive qualities. He can also create opportunities in front of the goal. Personally, I would see Jamie Gittens playing. And then the all-star player for me is Julian Brandt, who is deputy captain, an absolutely sensational player. Came out of the Bayer Leverkusen academy, and along with Florian Wirtz is one of the most exciting German players, I think. So yeah, then of course probably Daniel Mahlen, I would imagine, and Serhu Girassi in the number 9 position. So you basically got a relatively defensively oriented side. And as you mentioned earlier, Farouk, the possibility of Maxi Bayer playing, but I wouldn't imagine that they would put on more than one striker, just simply because it's Real Madrid at the end of the day. And Dortmund will be aiming to play relatively defensively under the pressure that they are of traveling to Camp Nou, even with 6 points in the bag.
There's a lineup, but yeah, it remains to be seen. Maybe I really hope I want to see Max Bayer. I saw some highlights earlier from last season, and then he looked pretty bright.
Yeah, he's a good talent. I absolutely agree with that, and I'm sure we haven't seen nearly the last of him. The question is he going to make the breakthrough at Borussia Dortmund? The weird thing about BVB is that they have a under-23 side that play in the 3rd tier in Germany, but they are very reluctant to entrust any of their first-team players. I think it's just due to the risk of injuries and so on. So basically what it means is that if you're like Youssoufa Moukoko, Maxi Bayer, etc., if you're actually not playing in the first team, then you're not getting very much of a run out at all. And so it can, I think, be a big frustration for the players, like it would be at any side.
Really makes sense. Now that we have the lineups, let's actually go for an ad break, and then when we return, we'll break down Real Madrid side of things and head into the lineups and predictions. But yeah, Doris, take it away.
Hola Madridistas, I'm back once again to remind you, if you're ever looking for a way to support us, please do so and go to manscaped.com. Use our code LBR20 to get 20% off and free shipping. That's code LBR20 to get 20% off and free shipping. Check out these thick silicone bristles. They are 100% antibacterial. No more germs hiding on your head. The bristles gently exfoliate your scalp, and the product helps reduce flaking caused by dry skin and buildup. One of the coolest features is that it helps stimulate blood flow to your hair follicles, and increased blood flow equals healthier hair. And trust me, I know I have a lot of it. Bristles also enhance shampoo penetration for more foam and less product, and with that you can also pair the 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner from Manscaped for the ultimate hair care routine. And this is a pretty big sizable thing, and let's not forget the relaxing massage that it provides after a long day. Using this feels like a mini spa treatment. It's a great way to unwind while taking good care of your scalp. So yeah, go to manscaped.com, use our code LBR20 at checkout to get 20% off and free shipping. That's code LBR20 to get 20% off and free shipping.
Off basically. And like the thing is that when I think maybe Ben knows even better because like since he lives in London, like he's in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium or the Emirates or stuff like that. Like you look at those stadiums and like when you go to a stadium like San Siro, you feel like, bro, like are we in the era of World War II or some shit like that? Like San Siro is like really, really old. Like it's like very outdated stadium, you know. And so like when you see those, like you appreciate, you know, like the effort that actually like the clubs have put into build, you know, like a very world class stadium. But yeah, I mean, let's see what Ben says when he eventually goes as well. Hopefully, I hope to go again sometime soon to at least see the stadium properly and watch, you know, Kylian Mbappe as well in live and see how it is.
Absolutely. And we're back, guys. We were just talking about, the new Santiago Bernabeu and the atmosphere. Hopefully, we both get to go again someday. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the current state of the team for heading into this matchup?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you know, right now we're gonna play Borussia Dortmund. It's at home, and okay, maybe it's a bit up and down, but like our away form is absolute horseshit, and we've not been playing the best, and we need to bounce back in the Champions League because like we've won one game and we've lost one against Lille in France. So now Borussia coming, maybe not the best time to play Borussia, honestly, like because like we're not in the best of forms, but also as Ben was alluding to, like with Borussia, it's like you never know what to expect as well. They're going up and down with the new coach and all the new faces and etc. But I do feel like it's going to be a proper European tie. But I do feel eventually like our experience should shine through, especially because it's a home game. If we were traveling to Germany, I would have a bit more worry. But like yeah, generally like German teams have always given us a bit of difficulty, although like we've been quite successful against them. But like it always comes with the caveat of like you have to struggle for. There is basically no easy win with the German teams. Like even no matter how lopsided the score is, like you've actually worked for it, and it's Borussia, like we've faced them a lot and we know how difficult it is playing against them. So I do think like it's going to be a difficult tie, but eventually, like the experience and the know-how should, see the team through eventually.
Interesting. I would be interested to ask about, obviously, Kylian Mbappe, how he's settling in at Real Madrid, but also Arda Güler as well, who's a really great talent.
Yeah, I would. I mean, we were just talking about Arda as well. Like Arda is a player that like it's something. It's head scratch at least for me because like when you watch him play for the Turkish national team and you see the things he does and how creative and how free he is, and then you come to Real Madrid and like it's like he's playing a totally different role that's not like highlighting the maximum of his abilities. But anyways, he's still young. We're gonna see he's gonna get more responsibility. I think as the season goes on and as he grows older as well. So hopefully, we get to see him take that role of the creator in chief for the team because primarily this is what's lacking in the team. On the other hand, I will just answer quickly before Jacobs answers as well. for Kylian Mbappe, it's still not like clicking into gear yet. Like, okay, we're gradually getting there. Like because we've seen Kylian Mbappe and we know the signature moves that he has and like, what he's able to do. I think we saw that just in one game. I don't remember which game it was, but it was in the league at the Bernabeu as well, right? If I'm not mistaken. Or was it in the Champions League?
I think it was in the
There was just
Champions
one.
League. Yeah.
It was just one game where he like dropped the shoulders, switched to, I think he switched to his right feet, and he just shot the ball. I think that was the only game we've seen that. Otherwise, like, okay, he scored 5 league goals. I think 3 of them are pens or something like that. So it's like, okay, like the output is there statistically, but like anyone who watches the game knows that this is not the Kylian Mbappe that Real Madrid is expecting, or this is not the player that we think is the best player in the world. Like he hasn't made his mark yet, but I think gradually, and it's not easy because, like, I mean, we have the best player in the world, in my opinion, in Vinicius Junior. So it's not easy to come into that team and make your mark as the alpha guy as well. So it's not yet happened yet. But then the team as a whole as well hasn't generally clicked. So I would say, like, with Kylian Mbappe, we haven't seen anything yet, but I would just say maybe Jacob has a different perspective than me.
No, man, I think you pretty much covered it with him on the pitch. As far as with his goals with his integration into the team, into the dressing room, I feel like he's hit the ground running. He's already made a few friends in Bellingham and Vinny. They're all working together because some fans were expecting that it might be too much of a ego-filled dressing room, but it doesn't seem like that at first look. So yeah, I would say he just needs more time, and Ancelotti needs to figure out how to get the best out of him, and he's gonna shine.
Interesting. Would it be fair to say that Jude Bellingham is a slight dip in form, or I'm not following his play this season?
It's a complicated question. It's he's had a stop and start season, honestly, with injuries and whatnot. But in the games that he's played, he's looked really solid. He puts in a real defensive shift compared to last season. So he's one of the reasons why we've been able to at least escape through matches especially in transition. He's an absolute gem there. But with his attacking output, it has actually reduced because he doesn't get into the same positions that he used to do last season, understandably.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting to see, and obviously very interesting to hear about Kylian Mbappe as well. And obviously, with the sheer talent that you have in the dressing room, it's about finding the balance in the side. So yeah, interesting to see, and also to see how Borussia Dortmund are going to cope with that opportunity. Yes,
Absolutely. Farooq, do you want to kick things off with the Real Madrid lineups?
Yeah, let's see that. I know also we talked earlier about the fact that there's still uncertainty about like Thibaut Courtois. We're not sure if he's gonna be back and fit enough for the game, or if it's gonna be Andrea Lunin also manning the goal. But yeah, away from that uncertainty, I think the team almost basically picks itself, because I'm assuming it's gonna be Lucas Vazquez, at right back. We're gonna have Militao and Rudiger, manning the center back positions, and we're gonna have also Ferland Mendy, and then it's going to be Tchouaméni, Fede Valverde, and Jude Bellingham, of course, facing his old team, and then we're going to have a front two or a front three. I'm not honestly sure about that, but I just want to address something Ben was mentioning about Jude, since I mentioned him. You were saying, like, has Jude regressed or something like that? I don't think there's a regression, because actually, Ben, for me personally, I feel like last season was, I don't know what you think, but you've seen Jude much more than I have. I think last season was an anomaly. It's something that will never happen again for Jude Bellingham. It's something that I think, I'm at least based on the people I've spoken to who watch Borussia Dortmund, they never expected to happen with Jude Bellingham. The fact that he scored that amount of, I think he scored like 27 goals or some shit like that. I don't know what the numbers are, anyways. Like, the amount of goals he scored, when the maximum he scored for Dortmund in a single season was 9. I feel like that was like, that's not what he brings to the game. I feel like what we are seeing this season more, the domination that he shows in the middle of the park, and how he like influences games, is more what we should expect for him. So, like, rather than him regressing, like, this is the real Jude showing up. I don't know if you would agree or disagree with what I'm saying, Ben.
well, I mean, 33 goals so far for Real Madrid. He's certainly showed what he's worth, and almost all BVB fans are really proud of him. And as an England fan myself, obviously, yeah, I'm extremely happy for Jude Bellingham, to be fair. So Dortmund were looking at signing Joe Bellingham, his younger brother from Sunderland. And yeah, I mean, a talented family and a talented player like the likes of which we haven't seen for a long time. So a future England captain in the making there.
Absolutely. And the other thing is that I don't think Jude's role in the England team is actually going to change. Do you think he's actually going to take a deeper role this season? I don't think so. I think he's still going to be attacking, just arriving in the box late, as he always does.
Well, we'll just have to see how that pans out. At the moment, we've got our hands full with the new German coach, Thomas Tuchel, taking over. Obviously, he's come up against Real Madrid with PSG, BVB, and so on a few times, Chelsea as well. So he's certainly known out in Spain. And yeah, interesting to see how things pan out. But for now, I guess the focus is on the Champions League game. And I'm not really sure what you feel about this new format of the UEFA Champions League, where it's basically a whole load of games before you have the chance to know whether you're going through to the next round, plus some playoffs, etc. Dortmund sitting pretty right now at the top based on goal difference, but how long that's going to go on for, I'm not really sure. Yeah, so I'm not really sure what you guys think of the new format, to be fair.
Well, for me personally, I think it's just a waste of time. Like we add more games and stuff. Of course, we're gonna see the occasional games like Lille beating Real Madrid. We're gonna see those occasional games like I think Leipzig against Milan was also a cracker as well, stuff like that. We're gonna see these occasional games, but I think eventually, when we have the last 8 teams left, if you ask anyone, maybe one or two, maybe one team, not even 2 teams, maybe one team is just going to be the surprise. Which is what we've seen as well. Let's not forget we had Ajax in the years previous before that. We've seen times that we have FC Porto in the quarterfinals. We've had teams that shows up in the last 8 that aren't supposed to be there. So it's not something new. I just feel like it's like having more games, but eventually the end goal is still going to be what we know for the past years. Like the last 8 teams are still going to be the people that we know. It's going to be usual people. So just a waste of time, especially the time that everyone is complaining about playing too much games and like everyone is shouting at FIFA. But yeah, UEFA is adding games. Like UEFA created the Nations League, now they create extra games as well, and then FIFA is doing the whole thing with the Club World Cup in the US as well. So it's like at a certain point in time, you just have to like understand that okay, like there is history, there is heritage. Like there is nothing you can do. These teams are big. If you want to like hit them where it matters the more, don't pay them as much as you pay them. That's just the thing. Like there is nothing to do. Like the gap is there. Like I wouldn't expect a team that comes out from the 2nd division or 3rd division to just start fighting with Bayern Munich. Of course it doesn't work that way. It's something that they also need, that 100 years of history and heritage that Bayern has to be able to match that. So this is just the thing, like whatever like parity they're trying to create. Like unfortunately, when they started this competition, I think with 5 teams, or how many teams. Real Madrid won it 5 times in a row when they started the competition, So they have already created that gap from the beginning. So it's like trying to fix all of this is, it's I don't know, it's just like, I don't know, it's like when you have a headache, you try just to cut your head off. Like, so, I mean, it's not the solution, like you can ask the players to keep playing, and then eventually in the last 8, we still have the 8 teams that we had for the last 5 years, So in my opinion, it's unnecessary, honestly, and it's not something I fancy at all.
Interesting analogy, and I think obviously a lot of people are also looking to the FIFA Club World Cup as well, to see how that's going to work out. Played in the USA for the first time. Real Madrid are in there, Borussia Dortmund are in there. So again, another tournament and another new format and so on, and expanded and so on, and it just keeps going, doesn't it? So yeah, we just have to wait and see. At the end of the day, Real Madrid versus Borussia Dortmund is everything other than a Mickey Mouse game. It's a big game, 2 great historical clubs, 2 Champions Leagues winners, Dortmund 3 times finalists. And absolutely, I remember perfectly 2016 when Marco Reus scored the goal. We were in the Dortmund end, and 2-2 and so on. And yeah, if Dortmund can come away with a point or even a victory against Real Madrid, I'm not saying that it's going to be similar to the 4-1 when we beat you in 2013, but those days don't come up very often against Real Madrid. So yeah, really looking forward to it, really excited for the game, and just really sad that I'm not going to be there myself to see the new stadium and also to see go out to Madrid, out to Spain, and so on. But there you have it, So yeah, lots to look forward to. Again, a big Champions League night.
Yeah, these games actually make it worth it, I guess. With the new format, we see bigger teams taking each other on a bit more. But it's just I just get the feeling that the excitement might die out towards the end of the group stage because there's more games. I feel like some teams might establish themselves too early. That's just the general feeling I get. But yeah, let's actually get into the rest of the lineups. So we covered the defense. It's going to be the usual lineup. We don't have a lot of choice in terms of personnel. But in the midfield, we are used to starting Tchouaméni, Bellingham, and Valverde, three-man midfield. But then the question is, Farouk, do you actually see Camavinga making a surprise start, depending on how the game at the weekend goes?
Yeah, I definitely said, actually, that's how I was, I just fell short of like naming the forward. So I think like, like this is a game that we might see Camavinga actually make the start, because I think he might not start at the weekend. So I do think, he will be prime, to start at in the midweek against Borussia Dortmund with, having 4 midfielders in the team. Well, yeah, I think it's and he's just coming back from injury, so like it's a gradual easing into the game. If he misses the game at the weekend, then it's only right that he starts the game in the midweek, at least to create a bit of to create some balance in the team, with having 4 midfielders to kind of like counter Borussia Dortmund as well. Well, yeah, I would not be surprised. I would, and I actually would be looking forward to that.
Actually, yeah. Actually, I think this is a good question to ask Ben, right? From an outside perspective, we've been discussing this on the pod for a while now from the start of the season. So the success of Real Madrid in recent years, like we've been known for our midfield, 4-man midfield actually, and 2 up top, right? That could change, with both all 3 of these guys forwards. And the guy that Real Madrid fans are saying is going to miss out in the starting lineup is going to be Rodrigo. Do you actually think Real Madrid are weaker without the 4-man midfield, or do you think it's going to be a lot more easier to face off against a 3-man forward line?
I think Real Madrid are unpredictable, whichever lineup they play against. And as we saw in the Champions League final at the end of the day, Real Madrid, and you have a history, as Farouk said, of winning, and simply Carlo Ancelotti is a sensational manager. I mean, it's a huge gorilla of football against a young rookie coach. How are we going to face them? Well, I don't know, basically. But Dortmund are highly unpredictable, I can tell you that. And if they have a sniff of any advantage, then they take it, that's for sure. So on a good night, I think we can come away with a point, maybe even more. But at the end of the day, as to how the game is going to pan out, I don't really want to put my finger on it at all, because Dortmund away form this season is very poor. And yeah, it's just very difficult to predict, to be fair. So I think it very much depends. We'll just have to basically wait and see. I can't put my finger on it.
I mean, that's what we do on the channel. We try to predict the unpredictable. So you can actually, if you want to, you can give out scoreline if you can.
I'm not going to put my finger on that, to be fair. But I'm going to, if I had to, then I would say 2-2, basically. I think Dortmund probably have enough in the tank to, they're coming out of the international break. Basically, a lot depends on how they play against San Pauli. Yeah, we'll just have to see, basically. But yeah, I think Dortmund probably have enough in the tank probably to come away with the point, just because of the inconsistency of Real Madrid this season. But it's hard to predict. It's hard to predict. Certainly, our European form, as I said at the beginning, has been absolutely sensational.
How about you, Farooq? Do you think it's going to be a wild game, 2-2?
I think it's gonna be a difficult game from a Real Madrid perspective, but I do think I don't see like having like a tennis score kind of game. I think it's because I do think eventually, like one way or another, like Real Madrid will find a way to kind of like control the game, and as think the wild side of of Borussia Dortmund eventually. But I said it's not going to be easy, so I do still feel like it's going to not be a high scoring match. I think maximum 3 goals, something like that. So I do see like a Real Madrid victory, like a 2-1, or like I don't want to go for the 3-0 Real Madrid big victory, because I just don't see that happening, considering like what our form looks right now, and not our form per se, but the way we are playing right now. I do, but I do think like Real Madrid wins this, not comfortably, but like we do find a way to get through.
Yeah, that's a fair shot. I was actually gonna go for the 2-1 as well, but maybe I'll go for a 3-1 this time. I feel like Dortmund will score, just looking at the state of our defense. So yeah, which is why. But I still feel confident since we're at home. We have looked strong so far in the season at home. So yeah, a 3-1 from my side.
Well, there you have it. That's a pretty good roundup, I'd say. We'll just have to wait and see. I would argue don't put your money on any of our predictions, basically, but enjoy the game. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast again. And enjoy the game, guys. And look forward to seeing you at Dortmund in Germany sometime, where you get the really most authentic and powerful football experience.
Yeah, thank you, Ben, for taking the time. It's always a pleasure, discussing with you and like getting your insights, based on an experience like you've been there, here and there, and it's super, super humble of you, to meet with us, like we're just starting out and doing our stuff, and like seasoned experts like you, being with us, like literally validates what we do, and also gives a voice to our channel as well, a different voice, and for that we do definitely appreciate you.
Thank you. I enjoyed the fun banter as well. Absolutely great, Farouk. And thank you also, Jacob, once again for hosting me and giving a platform for my writing and my podcast as well. And as you said, if you could add the link to the podcast for any Madridistas who want to check out Borussia Dortmund and get to know more our football club, we really love that. And thank you so much. And yeah, cheers. Appreciate, and all the best. Thank you.
Yes, we will. And until next time, Hala Madrid.
Hala Madrid.
Thank you.